Welcome back from the break. I'm Anissa Omar. This week saw a Twitter storm over an alleged racist policy at a South African high school, which demanded that black girls were not allowed to wear afros. Pupils at Pretoria Girls High said that staff told them to straighten their hair and that they were not allowed to wear their natural hair. Rules over how female students wear their hair at the school have been suspended since anti-racism protests were conducted by young female pupils. Wearing natural hair has become more prevalent amongst women across the diaspora, online and on the streets. But what has been its effect? We'll be discussing this. But first, Adama Manu looks at the growing popularity of natural hair styling.
Nappy, coarse, dreadlocks, tough, shrunken, woolly, kinky, or spiraled. These are words used to describe natural hair on African or black women. For over a century, black women have been under pressure to conform to a standard of beauty that many claim is European-centric. And when it comes to hair, this means altering through techniques such as chemical straightening or perming. Today, there has been the onslaught of what some have called the natural hair revolution. Online, there are thousands of tutorials made by black women on taking care of natural hair, from how to protect your natural hair journeys, to debates on whether women of colour should go natural, or experimentation with different hair textures. Going through these, you would think that this is representative of the experiences of the majority of black women. But black Muslim women are normally not a part of this discussion. And if not, why not? I met up with entrepreneur Danila Baruti, who not only owns her own hair care line called Hug My Hair, she's also authored an ebook on how to look after one's natural hair under the Muslim veil, or the hijab. What I found interesting about the conversation is how this so-called natural hair revolution is not only about someone choosing to express self-love in keeping their curls, but how businesses and entrepreneurship is being created from it.
As a Muslim woman myself, I know I definitely didn't feel part of the conversation. Though I have natural hair myself, it's very easy to go on a blog or on YouTube and learn more about natural hair and how to take care of it. But the presence of Muslim women in particular, I know I didn't feel online when I went online to look for it.
Do you think this is because of the fact that we wear the hijab?
Definitely. I think the hijab is definitely it's a visual barrier to being part of the natural hair conversation. People assume that because you cover your hair, you don't have to look after it.
So, how is this revolution affecting businesses such as hair salons and beauty stores in the African diaspora? The United States has the biggest hair market, and the latest statistics show some interesting trends in attitudes and behaviours of consumers in the market. As black consumers in the United States embrace this so-called natural hair movement, the sales of styling products increased by almost 30% between 2013 and 2015. New research shows that sales of styling products went up by almost a third, with a profit of $946 million. But the move to natural hair has affected sale relaxers, with a decrease in sales down by almost 20% between 2013 and 2015. This is a trend that extends throughout communities in the diaspora. In South American countries like Brazil, hair salons are propping up to serve women with frizzy or wavy hair as their specialty. Some women have for a long time lived on the margins, unable to find salons adapted to their needs.
It was easy to find products on the market for normal, greasy or dry hair, but there's nothing for frizzy or wavy hair.
More than half Half the population of Brazil is black or mixed race, and their income has increased more than any other demographics in the past few years, thanks to the country's growth.
I liked having curly hair, but the products I was using just made it wavy. It's only when I came here that I could get curly hair.
On the African continent, ideas around beauties are also being challenged, and particularly online. In the Ivory Coast, a group of young women calling themselves the Nappies de Babi have decided to challenge conventional views on style and beauty.
It's still what society dictates. Modern women are represented with smooth hair flowing down their backs, never with frizzy hair. It's really a question of identity.
Their Facebook group has 2,500 members, and every 2 months they meet up to share practical tips.
There's the problem that people think if you don't use products, you can't look after it. And when I explain that I only use perhaps a little shea butter, coconut oil, jojoba oil, and that's all, they ask me, are you sure? That's the secret? Yes, shea butter is easy to find. It's produced here in Africa.
Whilst the exportation of straight and silky human hair still accounts for large profit for countries such as China and India, many people of African descent are choosing to embrace their curls and waves. Adama Minu, Africa This Week.
Who taught you, please, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach?
To discuss this important subject, we have with us in the studio Marissa Hilton, who's a member of the Ujami organisation that will soon be hosting an event looking at hair stories. It looks into hair care and the celebration of African culture. Soraya Bah, who is also a spoken word poet and blogger, will be on the show in the studio. But last but not least, we have Nusrat Lodder, who is a broadcaster and writer on women's issues and race, and she joins us on Skype. Thank you all for joining us in this discussion. So, black natural hair, why is it so political? Can I ask Soraya first?
Maybe because it's so big and unruly. Not in a bad way, but anything that doesn't conform to the normal status quo is always looked upon as scary, or we need to contain it. Especially growing up, I've got natural hair. I had natural hair for a long time in my life. There was a stint when I did use relaxers, but even when I did have my afro, I was always told to tame it or put in a protective style where it would be deemed acceptable in the school, in the workplace, and just going out amongst friends. But after a while, you think, but this is my hair in its natural state. Why should it be a problem?
Marissa, can I ask you the same question? Why is black natural hair political?
I think because it's an identity, it's a statement, it's a personal statement. You can't get any blacker than to be in your natural state. And I think because it doesn't fit the norm, it doesn't fit the mainstream ideal of what we should look like, I think that's why women will encounter problems when it comes to being in the workplace or being taken seriously if they have natural hair. They're not fitting the mould that has been set by a European standard of beauty.
Nusrat Lodder on Skype, can you give us a bit of context as to why black hair is seen as political? Is there history behind it?
Yes. Black hair is something that is generally seen as political for a myriad of reasons. Firstly, the context of the history in which it is that generally the black hair in its natural form as being quote-unquote frizzy or untamed is something that, again, yes, goes against the European norms, but something that acts as a form, as historically, it's always been seen as a form of rebellion to the usual standard. It's political because essentially it's seen also as a way of defiance. I even myself, as a black woman, I cannot believe that personally the way I choose to wear my hair, even in this 21st century that we live in, is seen as a revolutionary act for me to wear my hair the way it grows out of my head. And the fact that many people, and the fact that people who choose to wear their natural hair are seen as being defiant and not conforming to a European standard, it's seen as something that has to be tamed. And this has been seen in the days of slavery. It's also been seen in the times of colonial times, whereby if you looked more like the Eurocentric European standard, this was deemed acceptable. So those that choose to stray away from that or assert their identity unashamedly are going to be seen as people that are defiant or people that go outside of the mold, and as a result, it's seen as something that has to be put into.
There's also been in the headlines, of course, the natural hair protest, as it were, in regards to the Pretoria High School, of young girls saying that we just want to wear our hair the way that the way it's been made. What has been your reaction to those protests, can I ask?
I think it's quite laughable, to be totally frank, that you're in a school setting and we're supposed to be millennials and we're having such an archaic view and pinpointing how a child should wear their hair or not. That shouldn't affect their education in no way, shape or form unless their hair follicles are growing into their brain and affecting the work that they do. I think it's a joke and I stand behind them 100%. If I was back in school, I'd probably be protesting too.
And we know that the school has overturned the ruling. Do you think that's enough of a statement to make to telling young girls that your hair looks like birds' nests, was one of the quotes from the staff, or that you look like monkeys with the hair that you have? What justice can these young girls get?
I think the overruling, I think it's a good step, but it's not enough. And quite frankly, I think the fact that that attitude is present on the continent of Africa, I think it's disgusting, because the state of the children's hair does not affect their education in any way, shape or form. And for someone in the authoritative position of a teacher to be interrupting the children's education based on their appearance, based on their skin colour, based on their hair texture, it's something that needs to be looked at. The education system over there needs to be looked at. If someone's hair texture can interfere with their education, then they need to address the actual system over there rather than the hair texture of the child.
Nusrat, I can see you nodding there. Before we get your point in, we just want to see a short clip as to a young pupil from Pretoria giving her stance on the issue.
I was referred to as a sheep because of the way my hair is. I've been told that it's a fashion statement, it's a fashion style, and I can't grow it for that long. And I'm supposed to tie it down. I'm supposed to straighten it by means of relaxer, and that's just generally not okay. So yeah, I think most of us with this kind of hairstyle and with dreads as well have been victimized.
Nusrat, what was your opinion on that soundbite?
I think that personally, my opinion on this issue is that the fact that somebody has to be made to apply a chemical to their hair is obviously something quite symptomatic about the society that they live in. But to actually interrupt a child's education because of this shows just how the school and even wider society are threatened by young black girls asserting their identity the way God made them. I think it's something that the school should be ashamed of, and something that needs to be frequently challenged in society, the idea that there's only one acceptable way, Eurocentric way of wearing your hair. Acceptance shouldn't be through society, it should be through these girls expressing who they are, the way God made them.
So you touched on the point of identity, and the right of Americana and half of a yellow sun, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, has said that if Michelle Obama was to have worn her hair in a natural state, she's pretty damn certain that Barack Obama would not have become president. She says that this is because of the negative connotations that are linked with natural hair, that black women are seen as militant, neo-Black Panthers, angry. As a woman and as a black woman, you're not seen as mainstream with your natural hair. Is this the identity that natural hair presents of black women? Can I ask you, Marissa?
I think for a black woman to wear her hair natural in these days, it definitely shows a symbol of strength. It shows a symbol of self-confidence, self-acceptance, and that you're comfortable with the way you look, with your identity, with your heritage. And no matter what anyone else says, that is who you are. And I think when black women in particular when they come to a place in their life where they are completely accepting of themselves, they realise their power, and that is what the threat is. That is what is threatening to other people.
Sorry, do you think this is the same identity that's coming forth with this perception that Michelle Obama's putting forth?
Most definitely, but in the same breath, it could be said that she would have been deemed angry if she wore natural hair, but there's been many instances where the mainstream media has dragged Michelle Obama through the dirt, saying that she comes across as an angry woman just because of the passion she exudes in the speeches that she's presented in the past. Natural hair, for me, it does show that it shows acceptance of yourself, which in itself is a sign of strength. And the natural hair movement that we've seen, the uprising, it's amazing because you'll see women coming together. You'll find that through embracing the natural journey, they're able to become entrepreneurs and advise other women how to revert back to their natural state. And there's different stages of going through the natural process, which they will then be able to advise women for. You'll find loads of events coming up, and there's a lot more solidarity. So I don't see it as, when I see natural hair, I don't see an angry person, I just see a sister.
In terms of wearing your natural hair, Nusra, I'd like to bring you back into conversation. What effect does this have potentially on black women's public life and her potentially her private life?
Well, personally, I think that wearing your hair in its natural state has ramifications both for your public and private life. In your public life, it can actually impact your employment. We find that actually some employers and by default employees it can actually express some level of reserve when women wear their hair in its natural state. This could be due to perhaps them not understanding actually the various styles of black hair, but also they're looking at the image of what it would have towards their clientele if it's something that's very client-based, and how this would look publicly. We find that in the private sphere, some women actually, fellow black women actually receive scorn for wearing their hair in their natural state. I mean, it can also be a generational thing as well, because there are some women who said that with their mothers or their grandmothers and their aunties have said, why would you wear your hair like that? We try to not look like that. And we find that even in terms of finding a spouse, it can actually express some level of discontent, because a lot of the ideals of what we have about women are got through the media, and henceforth the Geocentric standard that is channeled through that. And we find that some men, but more specifically black men, because I'll add black men into the conversation, have this idea that a woman must look like, for example, like Rihanna, like Beyonce, and that's only what two people on the spectrum of what black women should be like. So if you're conditioned to believe that women should look like that at a young age, it makes it difficult as you as a woman to not only conform to that standard, but to feel that you also are worthy to find a man in that kind of relationship setting. So this has an effect on people from across all aspects of their life, especially.
So we touched upon within our discussion of a hair revolution. Is there a natural hair revolution? Should it be called a revolution, Marissa?
I would say there is a revolution. I would say also the other word you could use is an awakening. Whereas I think we're realising that we don't have to conform and that we are enough. What we have is acceptable and we can go with that, and it's okay. We are not having to press our hair or relax our hair or wear wigs and weaves. If you choose to do that, that's fine, but it's not necessary. We don't have to. And I think the more of us that realise it, you end up almost like in a sisterhood with people. You identify with people. You've gone through the same struggles to get there. Either you've had to cut it off and start again, or you've gone through the process of growing out a relaxer, or you've worn wigs for a year while your hair grows out underneath. Everybody has a journey, and you can identify with so many other women that have been through a similar thing.
Is this journey, would you say, on an international platform?
I would say, yeah, it is definitely. And I think here in the UK, initially we tend to look to the US for hair inspiration, for hair ideas. But definitely now in the UK, there are a lot more women embracing it. We have a lot more natural hair product companies popping up here in the UK as well. We've got a lot more homegrown resources than we had previously.
So moving on to the hair revolution, are Muslim women part of that conversation? Should they be part of that conversation? We saw in the VT Delilah saying that she'd put forward a book looking at hijab and the idea of black natural hair underneath, and not necessarily people thinking that Muslim women need to look after their hair in that regard. Or do you think it's always been there and no one's really known?
Just a quick sound, but I actually love Danila and her products. They're amazing, so mashallah sis. I don't think black Muslim women are involved in the natural hair discourse purely because the hijab is seen as a barrier. There's this mystique about it. What's underneath your hijab? How is your hair texture? So the fact that she's actually brought out a vlog on YouTube and created an ebook to give you guidance as to how to take care of your hair under hijab, especially as Muslim women, our hair comes into contact with water on a daily basis, and water can be the enemy if you don't take care of your hair and maintain it. Before that, there wasn't much of a discussion there. I only started observing hijab about 2 years ago. So prior to that, I was going through a transitioning stage where I was experimenting with weaves, hair extensions, and then I grew it out, and I work in a corporate environment. When I decided to, once my hair had gained a bit more length and I decided to let go of the extensions and start wearing my natural hair, even though there wasn't any outcry against it, there was definitely a change in how people perceived me, or even spoke or referred to my appearance. They're like, oh, I really preferred your hair when it was short and relaxed, or I really liked it when you had 22-inch weave flowing down your back. And there would be other questions like, can I touch your hair and whatnot. Then I done the transition from wearing my natural hair to hijab, or doing it in a traditional African head wrap.
There's a lot more that needs to be known about Muslim women in regards to their natural hair, and I see Nusrat
definitely
nodding. Do you want to add your say?
Expressed regarding black Muslim women. I feel that we've actually not really been too much within the conversation, both when it comes to conferences or magazines or even the events that have been taking place. And even though this may have occurred in a personal setting, it's yet to be had on a much wider platform. And this kind of idea that is actually compounding this idea that we don't actually need to take care of our hair because we wear a scarf on our head is actually what I think has held the conversation from being had. And I think that both women that may wear the veil and don't wear the veil have to be in this conversation. At the end of the day, we are all black women and we all have the same hair issues. And I find that what Danila is doing with her ebook and actually promoting this discussion is actually something to be highly commended for. And I think while this discussion may take place with people like Danila, we also have to be having this discussion and educating one another, because we find that actually in female gatherings...
As you're saying, Nusrat, all black women, and you mentioned, Marissa, the idea of solidarity. I understand that you have an event coming up with your organisation. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yep, our organisation is Ujima, and that's based on the Kwanzaa principle of collective economics. So what we're aiming to do is to bring together African-centred businesses in order to basically highlight them. And our event on the 29th of October is Hair Stories. And what we're aiming to do with that is it's a celebration of African hair and heritage. So it's not a regular hair event where you go there, you see bloggers, you take pictures and you buy products. We have workshops that embrace natural hair. We have workshops that are concentrating on African hair threading. We have health, nutrition, we have head wrapping. So it's bringing everything together under one roof.
When will this be and where?
It's on the 29th of October and it's at Westminster University.
Thank you all for joining me in this very, very interesting discussion. But unfortunately, we've come to the end of our programme. I want to thank all my guests for coming, and you at home for watching. Catch up with us online with the hashtag #AfricaThisWeekIC at Islam Channel CA for the latest on African news. If you missed the show, you can view past episodes on islamchannel.tv and keep up with us on Facebook. Now, a rare phenomenon took place on Thursday. The moon wandered into view to make suns appear as a ring of fire. The phenomenon, known as the Annular solar eclipse, happens when there's a near-perfect alignment of the Earth, Moon and the Sun. We leave you with scenes of residents of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania marvelling at the solar eclipse gracing their skies. We'll see you again soon.